is Megan Loiza. I am the owner and artist of Lolo Rose Design. I'm going to be telling you the story of why I started Lolo Rose Design. In the process, you're going to be watching me paint this. Anyways, I first primed this piece with shellac, which you can pick up at any hardware store. And that is because this is particle board. So you can paint particle board, but here is why you're not supposed to paint it. Because if you get anything underneath the initial seal, it will swell because the wood fibers will hold on to that moisture. I always love round brushes. This is a Paint Pixie brush. You can see I use it often. A water sprayer. The finer the mist, the better it's going to be. And this is just straight water. There's nothing extra in it. You can start with a dry brush or wet brush. I like to have it slightly damp here to move the paint. The paint is very thick. I was in the Navy for 4 years. So right after high school, I was gone. Lost my job in the Navy during boot camp and had to get a new job. A job we like to call that it's not a job. It's like an internship. So I was interning on the flight deck. I did my first deployment on the flight deck. I worked a lot. It was a very dangerous environment. I also had a lot of fun and learned a lot about myself. A little spritz. Bing.
DIY paint is an all-natural clay-based paint that is highly pigmented with no VOC, so it is very, very safe. It adheres to almost anything. As you can see, I did not sand this piece, but if you have a very slick surface, it is always good sense to sand it or prime it. This color is called Bohemian Blue, and as you can see, I'm going to start bringing it down a bit farther than where I would initially want it, and that is to help with blending into the next color.
I met my husband, David, on the flight deck on the boat in the middle of the ocean, so I could stalk him. I could find him wherever he went. Just kidding. We really liked each other when we first met, and he was very funny. He always makes me laugh. And I eventually got a real job and moved division. I really started to push to make rank and get ahead, essentially, because I had wasted 2 years doing a job that wasn't even my job. And then that's when I got pregnant.
Okay, so we are not going to change brushes because we're blending. We want to keep the paint that you have on your brush to have a better blending technique. And next we're going to be doing Monet's Garden. Ooh, look at that green. Oh, so pretty.
So you can see that I am starting up where I put that boho blue, because that is the spot where I want that transition between the boho blue and Monet's Garden to start. And I'm doing it while the paint is still wet to allow for it to sort of mix together, and then I'm starting to bring it down the column where I want that Monet's Garden to be its purest color form.
Can you kind of see what I'm talking about? Now your paint will start drying on some sides because you can see here the inconsistency is due to it drying. So that's where you're going to want to spritz it and your paint becomes playable once again.
got pregnant right at the time that I started to see the success come from how much hard work I was putting into the Navy. And it hit me really, really hard when I had to be taken off the ship. I wasn't allowed to do a whole lot because I was pregnant. All the while, my husband was continually deploying. He wasn't there for the birth. He had to leave again, I think like 2-3 months after Rose was born. So I was very much on my own in a state across the country from any family, his or mine. We were far, far away. I started to get really, really depressed. I eventually got out of the military because we both decided that we didn't want to do a mill-to-mill family, and then I became a stay-at-home mom. And going from the environment of me pushing and driving and really trying to succeed at something to not having anything to work towards, eventually my husband came home for a little bit and I decided to try and get a job. And then I was fired.
Again, we're not changing brushes.
Now I'm going in with Old 57 and starting to blend it up. You can see that I'll be spraying it, and that is to reactivate Monet's garden to really help Old 57 blend into Monet's garden. Now remember, this is our first layer and it's not going to look perfect, so please do not stress out if some of your layering is not going or the transition in the colors is not blending as well as you want, because we're going to have to go through and do another coat and another round of blending to help it transition better.
It was the first job I've ever been fired from. I was like, holy crap. Looking back, I know it wasn't necessarily a me issue. Like, could I have handled things a little bit better? Of course, there's always room for improvement. It was a mom and pop kind of place, and it wasn't ran by the family anymore. They had hired out, but the people who had been running it had been there a very long time, and they had a certain way of doing things, and they had a close, tight-knit group that was very cliquey, and I wasn't allowed in, and I just don't go with status quo anymore. Once I was fired, I started to spiral back down my depression hole and feeling inadequate. So I actually went to therapy to deal with a lot of issues that came about in the military. If you don't have healthy coping mechanisms going in, you will not have healthy coping mechanisms while in or out. So I realized that and I sought help, and I'm a lot better now.
Next, we're gonna do sandy blonde in the middle. Trust me. Maybe don't trust me. You know what? It's paint. If I hate it, I'll paint over it. It's okay. Not changing the brush. And yes, before you ask, I will flip this over and do the bottom. Because here at Lolo Rose, we leave no stone unturned.
If you start to see that sandy blonde and Old 57 have really mixed and I'm not getting a true sandy blonde, that's okay, because when we go back in for our second coat, I will then be able to get that true sandy blonde in the center like I like.
That I wanted to have more of a purpose and something that I didn't take me away from my child, because my husband is always gone, and having two parents be always gone I think would be very difficult for her. So I wanted to do something at home and to move, and my husband hated all the furniture that I had gotten. And so I decided to try and make a profit off of this furniture so we could afford nicer furniture. So I took some paint, took some stain, and I started redoing this table we had. That sucker sold for a lot more money than I put into it or bought it for.
Voila. I think it looks pretty cute, huh?
You know, I was a little bit worried about these colors, but I don't know why I doubt Dionne Woods. And if you don't know her, she is a DIY icon along with Debbie's Design Diary. Y'all need to hit up those YouTube pages and Pinterest pages because they are the bosses of the DIY community. So if you see a close-up, you can see that this is not quite true colors. And as we go down, you can see it is not quite finished. This is phase 1, my friends. And let me put you back up on here. Need to let this first coat dry. Speaking from experience, if you don't wait to let it dry, you will start to take off that first layer and it's like you're not doing anything at all but wasting paint. Another trick is you don't have to wash your brush every single time in between. If you put him in a Ziploc baggie, close him up, you can even stuff him in the fridge, he will stay fresh and he will not harden. If you leave him out and dry out, he will harden and you will have a difficult time getting this paint off. Just FYI. Another thing you need to know is this is going to dry chalky to the touch and it's going to dry pastel looking. So do not be scared. It will look pastel-y until you seal it, and then it will look really dark, and then when that sealer dries, it will look fantastic. Advice I can give to any new painters out there, it's just paint. If you screw up, paint over it. If you hate it, paint over it. Sand it off. Wash it off. You could literally wash this off. Not 100%, you'll still have some pigmentation or random areas that haven't been, completely washed off, but you can wash it off. It's okay. We're here together. We all mess up. You saw my painting job up close. It's not perfect, but it will get there. Layers, my friend, layers. My why was to push me farther than anybody else was willing to go. Meaning, in a job with your boss, they'll try to push you or try to get the best out of you, which is normal. But I found that a lot of people underused my skills, and it started to make me angry that I had way more to offer and they were not using what I was capable of. Back at it again. So you see I added something? Yeah. I did do a second coat. And then I clear waxed it. With blending and stuff, sometimes you have to get the surface wet again, which reactivates the layers you did underneath. So in order to protect those layers from not being brushed off as you're trying to do a new layer, ooh, it's hot, I'm sweating. You clear wax it. I know what you're thinking. Megan, you clear waxed it, paint is not gonna adhere to it. I promise you it will. This is a trick that Dionne Woods was doing and I felt the same way. But then I tried it. I still have my brush. It's in my Ziploc baggie like I told you to do. And then I got my pointy brush to get up in these corners and in here because that big fat brush will not get, the bristles will not make it in there. And if it does, it will create a huge mess. And that's why you want to do a pointy brush.
Alright y'all, let's get this blending process going. I'm putting some Boho blue up on the top just to have it wet and have that paint there. And now I'm going to go in with Monet's Garden and start a little bit on the corner because I realized I really liked that being highlighted, and I start to bring Monet's Garden down where I want it to be. And right now I'm putting some Boho blue on my brush because that's Monet's Garden was coming in a bit too green.
So I like to spray the brush at this point because I find that because this is not a flat surface, my spray goes everywhere. And if I already had this painted and I wanted it to stay the same, sometimes my paint droplets will show through after I seal it. So that's why I spray the brush.
And now we're getting that old 57 in there. I'm not going too far down because I still have that Monet's Garden on my brush and it will start to mix with that old 57. And I get a little bit of Monet's Garden to kind of help ease the transition between old 57, Because those two colors are such a striking difference, you have to really try to help mix the colors together on your brush.
Do you like the side view of my chin? I don't have a very defined chin, so it does. Alright, let's get back to work, guys.
Alright, after the water break, we are doing more Old 57 because now my brush is mostly Old 57. There's not a lot of Monets on there. And I'm going to blend that a little bit further into the middle and sort of help get that sandy blonde to blend better with it. So now I'm doing some sandy blonde and it's starting to come out that true color that I really want it to be.
I'm taking my future into my own hands. I'm tired of having everybody else dictate how far I can go in life. I want to be the only reason I don't go anywhere. I want to be the only person who is in my way. That's when I decided to start a business, and I found that I love painting and creating, and my biggest love is when I get to create for other people and bring their vision into their home, their personality. I have 8 different colors in an 800 square foot house. You ready to seal? We're about to see what this baby is gonna look like. All right, you're about to see the truth. We're gonna do big top on this table. And I've washed my little one because when I put this big top in, I wanna make sure to get in all these crevices. This is what the table will look like dry. Let me show you. So this is big topped. The rest of it is not. So this is the true color you're gonna get out of Boho Blue, and these are the dried colors. I have so many colors in this house, and people always have these wow reactions like, this is cute. You know what I mean? Those little backhanded, like, oh, that's sweet. Yeah. And I didn't care because I realized that they're not walking into my home every single day. They're not waking up in this room every single day. I am. And if it doesn't, Maria Kundo, man, if it don't bring you joy, throw it out. You can't throw the whole house out. I mean, you know, it'd be really hard. But if you ever see my Pinterest or any of my portfolio on my website, you will see that I got color in me and it brings me joy. So I want to do that for other people. I want other people to want to paint their house crazy. I want them to see that they don't have to make their home look like a show home or look like a magazine. Whatever they want to display on their walls, that even though it's not what's trending, it's really beautiful because it's you. Really why I continually push and push and push myself to become better and better so that I am able to do those crazy things for you. That is really why I started Lolo Rose Design.
Make sure to subscribe, you guys, because I'm going to be doing tons of DIY videos. And if you are interested in purchasing any paint, the link is on my website under DIY paint page.